Hey, Shanti.
Welcome to Das Manor, as I like to call it. For Sunday dinner, Silence or Shame Sunday dinner. I'm so grateful that you all are here. And I just want you to just feel like, we're family. We're just going to have great conversations. This is something that we started last fall. And it was just really a way for us to come together and talk about, mental health, a way to normalize the conversation in our community, and to really bring about change, right? And change starts in the home. And that's why we thought Sunday dinners would be a great way to really get out into the community to keep this conversation going. So you guys are part of the second Sunday dinner. So again, thank you for being here. And today is really special because it kicks off Mental Health Awareness Month. But more importantly, it is Black Children's Mental Health Day in the state of Georgia. And that's what y'all can
That's a big thing.
Yes, we can clap for that. And I just want to acknowledge our staff and particularly our executive director, Jewel Gooden, who is the brainchild behind Black Children's Mental Health Day. She is a former therapist. Awesome. And she's a mother of 3, more importantly, and she really understands the importance of why we do have to take a look at our community and our children's mental health. We have Children's Mental Health Day at the state capitol, but now we have a resolution for Black children's mental health, and that's what's awesome. And so my heart is really full that you all are here and in my home, and I just want us to have a good time. Thank you so much to Dr. Cherry, who's probably one of my best friends in the world, and sister friend, for being here to facilitate this conversation for us. And of course, any Black Sunday dinner, we gotta say a prayer, so we don't have to hold hands because I know we're still trying to get out this pandemic. But let's bow our heads. Father God, I just want to thank you for blessing Silence or Shame and allowing us to be in the community to do this critical work for our community, and bless each and every one of the people and families that are at this table today. We hope that you speak to us, Lord, today, and speak through us and with us as we collaborate and come together and really figure out ways that we can protect our Black children, we can protect their minds, we can increase resources, and we can really, truly make the state of Georgia and our world a better place for our kids, and that they have the same access to health care, the same access to wellness activities, the same access to meditation, anything they need to be able to do, clear their hearts and minds, and really allow them, Lord, to open up their hearts and their feelings and their minds so they can be their best selves. And thank you for those that prepared or purchased the food, Lord. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So I will turn it over to our host, Dr. Cherry.
All right. So, yummy. So I want to just first again say thank you to everybody, Shanti, Jewel, and I want to get to know you all. So, you hear this question a lot, but this is that question that I want to ask you. I want to start with this one. Who are you? Yeah, who are you?
I think I'll start. Because of course, we think that we start that answer off with, "Hey, my name is Vaughn, and this is my job, etc." But I think actually I'm learning that I'm a lot to different people in different settings. To my 2 boys, I'm a father, like the greatest father in the world, in their eyes. To my mother and father, I'm their only son. To my wife, I'm her husband. We're trying to make it through our first year. We're almost there. 1 more month to go.
Hey, congratulations.
I appreciate that. To my clients, I'm their therapist. Again, the best therapist in the world in their eyes. So just, depending on who you ask, right? But
That's a great answer, by the way.
When I actually think about to myself, right, who am I to myself? I think all those different things, really, allow me just to say, I'm Vaughn, right? And no matter, what space I'm privileged to be able to walk into, all those different things I try to be genuinely on a daily basis. That's what that really means. So when I say, my name is Vaughn, it's a reflection of all those different things, that are really, really important to me.
Thank you, Dr. Gay.
I appreciate that.
I don't know. I was about to say. What do we That's awesome.
Why don't you go next?
Oh gosh, all right. I'm gonna kind of piggyback off of you. I would say I'm a daughter to my mom and my father. I am a girlfriend to my awesome boyfriend, Justin. I'm a best friend to one of my best friends, Raven, a couple other people. I'm an optometric technician for my job currently, so hopefully I can be some helping hands to some of my patients. And I'm a production assistant, so what I'm trying to do with that is tell stories more effectively in the ways that not as many people like we're trying to do today are comfortable to talk about, and kind of try to give people a space to be themselves and to be comfortable in who they are. So.
I love it.
Ooh, that was something. Yes, you stepped in that. Yes.
And I'm her mom.
Proud mom.
I love it.
Yes.
I'm her proud mom.
Yeah.
So I guess I'll piggyback too. So I'm Milan's mom. I also have a son. I'm Miles' mom. It's my joy. I'm Napoleon's wife. My favorite. So, you know, I'm a daughter. I'm a friend. I'm a sister. I have a sister, Nicole. I'm an aunt. I'm a cousin. Anybody who knows me knows I love my family and got a whole lot of them. I work the front desk at a elementary school now, so I wear a different hat in that. I used to work with Shanti in entertainment.
Good old LaFace.
I know LaFace, Atlanta. I used to work in PR at Spelman. So kind of moved around, used to blog and do all those kind of things. So I'm a work in progress. I guess that's what it is. I change hats on the professional level, and I love right now sitting at the front desk, working with our children and our youth, and being there for them and to support our teachers. And so that's kind of who I am in a nutshell.
You said that you're a cousin. You know, everybody in Atlanta cousins now. That's what we say.
I know, right?
So nice to meet you, cousin.
I know. I love it.
That's so very true. So I'll go next. I'm Melanie. I am Jack's madre. That's what he calls me because I'm his stepmom. And I wear different hats as well. I'm an attorney. I'm also a business owner. I'm a mental health advocate. My father spent the majority of his life in the mental health space, in that he was a chaplain at a mental health institution, and he was the director of a long-term care facility at a mental health institution. And so I grew up around a very supportive environment for mental health, and so I have a very keen understanding.
What a blessing, too. Because most families don't have that.
And I also grew up with 3 people in my family who were stricken by mental health issues. So I have a very compassionate side of me that understands mental health at a very deep level. And so I support it, understand it, and certainly am a strong advocate of silence the shame.
Thank you.
And, strongly, the name itself is just so apropos because, mental health should be integrated in everything that we do, starting in nursery school. So that's what I do. That's who I am. I'm creative, and and I'm analytical too. So I'm a writer. I'm a best-selling author.
Nice.
Lovely.
She's being modest. She our sisterbomb.com.
Her sisters.
Sisters, I'm sorry, yes.
I'm the youngest of 3 girls. So that's it.
And I'm Spelman's sister too.
And I'm very proud stepmom of a upcoming high school graduate. So I'm gonna turn it over to Jack.
I don't really have that much to say.
That's okay.
I'm just an 18-year-old boy. Goes to school, goes to work, hangs out with his friends.
What do you like to do?
What's your name?
My name is Jack McCant, and I like to play basketball, draw, watch anime, and
Nice.
films.
That's awesome. Who's your favorite basketball team?
The Celtics.
Okay. Are they still in it?
They're still in. Yeah. Second round.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
Good.
So I'll go. Most of y'all know I'm the founder, Silence to Shame, and CEO. But I'm really just a country girl from the A, as I like to say. I am complicated. That's who I am, because I've had a lot that I've had to deal with in my life. My father died by suicide when I was 7 months old. My best friend took her own life in 2014, and I came close to taking my life in 2015. But I'm also blessed because I had a wonderful mother that raised 3 kids and a wonderful extended family. And I have an amazing extended family of friends and family now. Just to be able to surround me, because I recently lost my sister and mom in the last 3 years, my mom a couple months ago. And I'm gonna tell you who I'm not. I'm not someone that's gonna give up on this cause for mental health, because my family too has been affected by it, and myself included. And even just last night, we heard of the news that we lost our country singer, Naomi Judd. Every day is somebody different, whether it's in the headlines or it's a family member or a church member or a teammate or what have you. And we don't know what the ramifications are going to be for the next 5 to 10 years of this pandemic, right? There's not been enough research, enough data, enough studies done to show what it's really going to do to our kids. That's why I think this day, Black Children's Mental Health Day, is so important, right? And not that we just focus on it today, but we're going to start doing so much more around it. And so I am not someone that's going to give up on this cause. So
Amen.
that's who I am.
Good for you.
She's
Good for
being
you.
modest.
Absolutely. Right.
Well, who are you, our host, Dr. Cherry C. Collier?
Well, I always like to start by saying I am child-free and parentless. But I am absolutely just blessed. My whole life was ordained. I came to the earth because I was called, because I had work to do. And at 5 years old, I said that I wanted to be the first Black Norman Vincent Peale. My teacher's like, "You're 5, what are you talking about?" So I would go into school and tell everybody about Norman Vincent Peale and how to think positive. I think, therefore I am, and changing your words and substituting your words. And it never mattered to me about our circumstances. It always mattered to me that my parents and my belief in what's possible has always been there. I'm a best friend to and a sister to Shanti. I met Shanti when she was 9. I can't think of a time when we were not together.
That is cool. Right
So though people think they go through things alone, everything that she's went through, I've gone through with her. And so it's made me stronger because I know about standing in the gap for, different people. If you asked me to, pull out my magic wand and, think about what would I change about my life, I wouldn't change anything. I was coming down the stairs and I have this huge life-size picture of my mom, and I was like, we got to go do it today, girl. And I carry her with me, and I know that my purpose is to just remind people of the gifts that they have inside of themselves, because we have those gifts, and we get so consumed in what we don't have that we forget that. So, and today I'm your host. And what that means for me is I'm going to be here with you. And I am also a village child. So I have friends and family and relatives, and I adopt people. So you have cousins. You're my cousin too. You're my cousin. We're all cousins, and we're family. And this is my nephew that I adopted when he was born. But he's like, oh God. But it never matters to me how people respond, because I'm going to always show up in the way that I'm supposed to. So thank you all for letting me be your host.
Can I just say something too? I will admit, growing up, I used to be like, why is she so positive about everything? Even as a kid, kids, you kids sometimes we get, hangry, or we have attitudes, or we get moody. Cherry never let any of that bother her, and I didn't understand it. But I'm trying not to get emotional, but I came to appreciate her as a human. She is one of the most special people that I know. And when she says she has a village, she takes I've never seen anybody that will go to 5 graduations in one day, and then another 5 tomorrow, and then drive to Savannah and come back and host a Zoom and do a training at the CDC and come to my house for this.
Yeah.
It's just, it is mind-blowing, but to her point, God gave her that assignment to cover the village, and she takes that assignment very seriously, and we all love and honor you for the work that you do in our community, and we hold you in high regard for loving us. So everybody at this table, y'all are now related to Cherry.
That's right.
All right.
Yes, and I am so honored. And with that, when we think about our calling, and so it's not that you have to know the exact purpose. Like, you know, as an executive coach, I have people all the time, they're saying, I don't know my life purpose. I'm like, that's okay. But if you were to know, if you were to guess about it, what's your mission? What's your purpose? And what do you think is kind of guiding you to do? And I want to actually start with you, because I love that you were talking about how you're hoping that your work is going to touch people. So what's calling you to do this?
Well, I mean, I guess all of us here have had their own individual experiences with mental health, and as the people who know me here, I've definitely struggled with depression, anxiety, ADHD, all sorts of things. So I mean, I know what it's like. Obviously, everybody has their own separate experiences, but I know what it's like, and I know it's tough, and it kills you. And I want to make people feel like they don't have to shrink with it, and they can grow. They can grow from it. They don't have to stay in it. And if I can do that, I mean.
And you're doing it now.
Then
You're doing it, and you're just doing it. I feel it.
Thank you.
I feel it,
Thank you.
and I just love how you show up.
Thank you.
Right. So
Thank you.
you're such a light.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for being honest, saying, "Hey, I have these things, but they don't have me."
They don't.
I love
don't.
that.
So proud of Milan.
I know it.
And
Yes.
just FYI, because we're going to edit some of this, we don't have to go to every single person if you don't want to. So just whatever feels natural for everyone. To if any of the questions don't speak to you, we can kind of keep it flowing.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry. Yep.
Good. Good. That one, I had to go there.
Yes.
I felt that mission. I feel it.
Yes.
I feel it. All right. All right. Anybody else want to talk about their mission?
No. Okay. Mine has changed over time. You know, of course, when you're younger, you think your mission is, you know, career oriented and all those things. Being in that space of family now, I realize you learn a lot about your childhood when you become an adult, right? You start to unpack things. You start to say, so this is why Dad did that, or this is why my mom is like this way. This may kind of been, you know, I heard it was this, but I can understand it may have been a little bit of that as well. So, you know, I'm in a space now where I get to recreate what family looks like within my family. Grew up in I guess the word is toxic now. I don't know what the word was for back then, but was a child of the 80s, right? And so any social issue that you can think of that was affecting our community back then was going on in my home and within my immediate extended family. And so what was normal for me, I'm learning now as an adult and as a father and what have you, that it was pretty toxic stuff, you know, and I see why I ran away from attachment and you know, had relationship issues and all those kinds of things. And it wasn't anything because of me. It was just that what family looked like was a lot of work, right? It looked abusive. It didn't look fun. It didn't look beneficial. So I ran away from that. But in terms of my going all the way back, you know, full circle, what's my mission? What's my purpose? I get to recreate what this image of a man looks like in my family. And that is extremely, extremely, extremely important to me, because if I do that and then my neighbor does that and the guy across the street does that, then we have a healthy community. And if we do that with we have healthy neighborhoods, and we have put some healthy neighborhoods together, then the boys at the park, you know, get good coaching and good mentoring, you know, so we can we can solve a lot of the issues that we have by turning back inwardly, right? And just kind of figuring out, based on what you've been through, how you can take that and take that pain and turn it into purpose. So that's my mission.
Wait,
Right.
I'm gonna tell you something, and just knowing that you're a therapist,
Yeah.
and knowing how many times in the Black community that is the thing, you can't go there because we
Right,
go to
right,
God.
right.
Well, God gave us therapists,
Uh-huh.
and so when I'm listening to you, I'm thinking how amazing this is because God is using you
Absolutely.
to help people and change the communities.
Absolutely.
And the more that we can hear that therapists are everyday people who have everyday problems just like we do,
Right. Right.
And
it
to be
changes the paradigm.
And add one more thing to that, I'm very intentional. You know, I got into this space, you know, just want to help people.
Yes.
And then when you start to see certain things, you're like, oh, so I need to, you know, this walk I'm getting ready to be on is going to be magnified. So
Magnified.
even what you were saying about the connection with the church, I have now just kind of pushed myself into the church to where now I'm overseeing the counseling ministry. So, you know, we're blowing the doors off of the excuses. And I think
Take
that's
those
very
excuses
important. We're
away.
going to talk about so much of that tonight, but, you know, we're blowing the doors off of them because we've scaled the conversation through the work that's been done over the last 10 years. I just think it's been really phenomenal.
Ooh,
Which
yeah.
is really,
That's awesome.
oh, thank you for the work that
Yeah.
you're doing because I just feel so good knowing that people like yourself are there setting new standards for our kids in our community
Yeah.
around mental health. That's a
And that
blessing.
you're relatable.
That-
You know, I think that's
you have to be
key.
human.
Right.
You have to be a human being.
I
you know?
mean,
Human.
for another man to come and hear you say that,
Yeah.
I think it's so impactful.
And to
Very
your
much so.
point, Dr. Gay was a part of a webinar that I did for DeKalb County Schools.
Oh, yeah.
Dr.
Yeah.
Ralph Simpson, who's a friend of ours from the Southwest Atlanta community, had both of us on. And it was so amazing because he was a product of that
Yeah.
school system. So for the
Right.
kids to hear him,
Right.
it was like, wow, okay,
And
he's just
still,
like
and still in
he
the
was
area
like me.
too, you know, still in that area. So I
Yeah.
mean, I'm doing some things intentionally so that you know
Yeah.
we don't have those excuses of I
Right.
didn't see anyone like that growing up. No, that's not true.
That's
you know,
right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
That word, intentional.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Right.
Praise
right.
me to you because I know you are so intentional.
Well, I think that the book that I co-authored, the title of my chapter is From ADD to Harvard, and it chronicles my path of undiagnosed ADD and dyslexia. That I wasn't diagnosed with it until, I didn't receive the diagnosis until after I graduated from Harvard Law School. And it was a horrible journey. I mean, there's just no way to sugarcoat it. I didn't pass first grade. I had to have a tutor the entire summer during my after first grade. And probably the only reason why the school system even offered that is because I had two very, very smart sisters that came before me, and they just busted out first grade. So they were like, you know, something's not right here. We know she's capable.
Yeah.
So they offered that, but I literally could not read.
Yeah.
And so, so it's a business book, and I just talk about how that hustle that I learned to overcome, you know, those issues when I was growing up, how that hustle helped me to start and become successful in my business. And so when the book was published, I struggled with, well, do I promote the business side of it or do I promote the learning disability side of it? And in talking with several people, they said, you know, I really hear your passion coming out for the ADD side of it, right? And so, because it's such a struggle, and what I really want to just encourage children, parents around it, because it does a number on your self-esteem. It does a number on everything. It does a number on everything. And so that's part of my mission, is to say, and I know that sometimes I've when I've talked to my friends who have children who have ADD or dyslexia, and they'll say, well, you went to Harvard. I'm just like, did you hear what I just said?
Right.
Didn't pass first grade.
Right.
It was a struggle.
Right.
Yeah.
And so when I started giving them examples, but see, I didn't talk about it
Right.
when I was going through all of that.
Right.
So now I need
Yeah.
to talk about
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
And I don't deprecate myself. I just tell my story.
That's
Right.
true.
I say that when I was studying for the bar, I took a bar review class, and they have a prescribed course of study. So they may say, okay, well, do these 200 practice questions. Well, I did 800
Okay.
Right.
because that's what I knew. I had to overcompensate.
Right.
You have to. Yeah.
And so
Yes.
because I didn't know that I had it, so I didn't know, I was not able to take, I didn't have a strategy. And so there was something that came along with that too, right? So at any rate, so I feel like part of that, my ministry, my father was a minister, everybody in my family is either a preacher or a teacher. So I feel like that is my ministry, to show that I am an example of an overcomer.
Yes.
Well, that's awesome.
So-
And it's beautiful. And as a person who's also dyslexic, I never had a problem telling people I was dyslexic, but when I went to school, so I grew up in Southwest Atlanta, but I was one of the chosen ones to be bused to Buckhead to go to school. And I had a wonderful teacher, Mrs. Butters, who knew that I was dyslexic and knew that I was black in a school that was predominantly white. And she also knew that she did not want me labeled because I was also gifted. And so what she did for me was she took me home every day to her house. And she showed me all of the strategies for working through it.
Wow.
Because she knew being black, I was going to be labeled. Having ADD, I was going to be labeled. And being dyslexic. And she wanted me to have a fighting chance. And so it was not until my very last class, working on my dissertation at the University of Georgia, when I had one of my first black professors, that she says, grading my paper, last class, have you ever been tested? I said, lady, grade my paper. Just grade my paper. That's all you need to do.
I love it.
Okay. Nobody is asking you to come label me at this point. Grade my paper. And she graded it. She graded it harshly, and whatever. And said, I really think you should get tested. I said, I think you should too. I think you should consider being tested as well on whatever it is that's in that DSM-4 book. Because I've made it this far. This is my last class. I will never have to be judged again.
Yeah.
So I'm out of here. Thank you.
Wow. Wow.
But everyone has a different way of handling it. But my thing was I tell people, if you ask, everybody knows I'm dyslexic. And there are a lot of things I still cannot do.
Right.
I have to have a lot of support, being places and showing up. Shanti said you're going to be, oh, okay, good. All right, good. I don't read a whole bunch of stuff, but I have written 25 books.
Right.
I wrote all of my books speaking. I speak everything that I do, and someone will type it and edit it for me and all that. But there is nothing that, I've never thought that seeing the world differently and not having, this is the time frame you got to do it in. No. There are no limits for me.
Yeah.
I do it when it has to be done.
That's awesome.
And so my parents early on gave me that permission. Miss Butters gave me that permission. They don't need to know. And so I was never afraid to tell people and kind of embrace it. So
And the way that it ties in for me to today's conversation about mental health is that I thought something was wrong with me.
Wow.
As I said, I knew that I had some people in my family that suffered from mental health, and so I wondered if I was afflicted, with mental health issues. So, so that's how I know it has to be normalized.
Yeah.
Because, and even if I was afflicted with some, mental health issue, that would have been okay too. But, you just need to know, and you need to be supported in whatever it is.
That's right.
So that's how, all of that ties in, because like I said, it did a number on my self-esteem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That was the point I was going to make.
Yeah.
Where childhood, everyone brought up,
Yeah.
experiences in childhood, and and how these things continue to carry us and carry with us. So, establishing that, the Children's Black Mental Health Day, right, and really kind of focusing on what that looks like. And children's not just people that are 4 and 5 years old, right? That goes pediatrics actually goes all the way to the age of 25. So it's a little bit of a transition period for the young adults to be able to get established in and have a really good footing. So, and we're having 2 young people here, really want to be able to see and hear what does that look like, from you all's lens in the 2020s, right? I was a teenager in the late 90s, right? So I can't act like I know exactly, right? I sound like an old man, but that time goes by quickly, right? But that time goes by quickly. So maybe you all at some point can really kind of share with us tonight what that looks like from you all's perspective, so that you can have the things that you need. It's a lot easier to ask for.
Right. I know one of the things I always say to her is that it pains me that she went through some of the struggles that she went through, but she's going to be so far ahead of the game of so many people and have the tools that she needs and whatnot. As I can somewhat relate, I'm not dyslexic, but I have ADHD, and I didn't find out. I was the last one in my unit of 4 to find out. My husband found out first, saw it in my son, and then Milan, and then me. And I grew up, and I didn't find out till after LaFace, after some high-powered careers, and still wondering, are they going to find out I'm not good enough? Or what's wrong with me? Why can't I just do what I need to do when I know I need to do it? And I saw a lot of that in my son, and it really moved me to try and be helpful with that, because I just saw that frustration, and I just remember how hard that was. And that's one of the things that I do. I always say to Milan, it's so important to have the tools. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with my brain. There's nothing wrong. It's just, it's a part of me, and there's ways to manage it.
And I think it's beautiful, because what I'm hearing you say is you want to be an advocate for him. And I think that as we're thinking about the community, if we can change the paradigm and stop letting people tell us how we need to be, because you're questioning, was something wrong with me? Something wrong with me. But what if you are the way that you? All right. Yes. And so when you're thinking about social media and all of the things that happen with the younger generation, I think it's so much pressure, because everybody wants them to be X way. It's they're getting messages from social media, messages from their parents, messages from the school, so many messages. And I love that you kind of mentioned, discernment. When you think about it, Jack, what are some of your hopes? Do you have any hopes or, fears around the future? What's coming up for you?
I don't really have any fears. I kind of know what I have to do and how I'm gonna do it. I have a plan for everything.
I like that.
That's awesome, Jack.
Let me give you that. You have a plan. Okay, excellent. So what are some of your hopes then? So
to focus and do well in school next year, and thrive by myself.
okay, all right. When you say by yourself, what does that mean? People like me not bothering you? It's okay. I mean, seriously, it's fine. It's fair.
Yeah, because Jack, we keeping it real.
It's fair. It's fair. Y'all leave me alone. Let me be. Tell me. It's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what I'm hearing you say is you have an internal guide, and in that internal guide, you feel comfortable. That you have a plan, and you want us to love you, and enough and trust you. Is that correct? All right.
That's a great plan.
I like that.
I like that. I like
Trusting
that.
their decision making,
Trust
trusting
him.
that they
You
can
gotta
make
trust
some
you. Yes,
decisions
high
on their
five.
own that's going to turn
Yeah.
out really good for them.
Love me from afar.
Right, because so many times people want to do something that sometimes you might not even need, and it might not even be helpful. So
Can I just
Yeah,
say, I think it's awesome that you can articulate that. and say, this is me and this is how I function, and I'm good with that.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, I think because of COVID, you know, the kids that are coming out of high school, they've been in COVID for the last 2 years. So there's been much more nesting, much more supervision. They have not had the opportunity to go away for summer camps and all those kinds of things that would have helped them to be more independent. And so I think there's this yearning. And so, Jack, I'm really proud of you that you're looking forward to, you know, gaining that independence and, you know, and flying your own wings and, you know, testing the things that we've told you. So I'm proud of you.
Yeah, and anyone else, does anyone else have hopes or concerns about the longer term future? Like what's going on? When we think about mental health, we think about what's happening? Anything?
I would say a hope is that it is more normalized, and that, you know, just that people will get the help that they need, you know, and that it's just exactly what we're doing here, talking about it and normalizing it. I hope that it becomes more accessible, because I think it's a challenge sometimes to get professional help. It's a challenge to raise your hand and say, I need help, or to, you know, to do that. And then a lot of times it's a challenge to navigate the system and find the help. When you find the help, sometimes it's a challenge to get an appointment,
Yes.
to get, you know, if she hurts her leg, I can get her in today. Her mind needs help. It could be a couple months.
It has been a couple.
Okay, and it has been a couple, you know what I mean? And that is, so on a positive note, I hope that is something that can change, because, you know, if it's more accessible,
Right.
I think what a huge impact.
Yeah.
I agree. I was going to say, like, my hope is that there aren't all these barriers to care for Black children and for our Black community. When you do think about, you know, so many of us are uninsured. Those of us that are insured, to your point, Lorraine, all the great therapists or psychiatrists are booked up. You might be able to get an appointment, but is that the best person? Just like
Right.
any other doctor, right?
Exactly.
Different levels of doctors. So you want the
Exactly.
best for your child. So and my hope is to see more young kids, go to schools and look at psychiatry and psychology as viable career options.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Just like you did,
Right.
Dr. Collier, even though I know you don't practice as a therapist, you know, you contribute so much from a scientific perspective to the work. But I want, you know, our young Black kids to understand that it's okay to want to major in psychology and go out and help people, because what is the statistic? Around 4 or 5% of all
4%.
clinicians
Wow.
are African American. And that's not to say that you can't see an Asian or Indian or European American therapist that can help you, but sometimes in our community, we want people that understand us and that are from our culture, and that we don't have to explain, you know, the braids or cultural nuances that might have happened at the family cookout, and they just can't, you know, grasp and understand it.
That
Like, we
practice
want
in our
people-
communities.
There you
so we
go.
don't have to travel across town.
100%. So that's why, you know, maybe one day we'll have silence to shame wellness centers, right, in the
my gosh, that'd be
communities
awesome.
where offering free therapy and yoga and meditation and all types of wellness activities.
Yeah.
So that's my dream for the future.
So I have to be the doctor of doom and gloom, right? I have a healthy fear. And that healthy fear just looks at our carryover culturally within our community. And how we do with waves, you know, of good synergy, good energy, good investment. And then when it's time to pass the torch on, right, for the next wave of young people to come up and take that on and build upon it, sometimes they're starting back at ground zero. We're starting back at home plate, right? And so how do we create like a long-term continuum, not just by, you know, having certain events or days, but how do we start with young people, right, as early as possible? She said pre-K, right? We need to be doing this at the earliest stage, and not necessarily just talking about mental health, but prioritizing, you know, people thinking about thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and how that triangulation really kind of centers us as people. I coach 6-year-olds. My son's 6-year-old T-ball team down at Gresham Park, right? And if anybody knows anything about Gresham Park, it's probably the most competitive park in Atlanta. They just go hard out there. And I have a player, one of my best players. He's our pitcher in the circle, and he gets frustrated every time he doesn't make a play. To the point to where he's in tears, he'll start pouting the whole nine.
Right.
That is my moment. I don't care how long I call timeout, that's my moment to help him understand how to express himself. In that moment, not to yell at him, not to tell him to get back in there and do it like I told, right? But I really I will get down on my one knee and talk to him, make sure that his mind is back reset in a good space and that he can just go out there and have fun. Right. Those are the important seeds that you have to plant so that when they're in high school and they're starting to hear about psychology and stuff like that in college, and they can see people that they know that have been working in this space, right? That continuum, we build that. But my fear is that, we're not able to capitalize on that synergy and be able to bring up that next wave of folks. So that's why I call it a healthy fear, because now it presents a new challenge that we really have to work on.
That's right. And I really like that because Shanti often says there's a difference in mental health and mental illness, and so many people get that confused.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's always been my thing. So when she started saying that, I was like, Lord, thank you. Because maybe we can get that into the popular press. And I know I used to go out to California, so I did most of my executive coaching early in California. And in California, if you don't have a therapist, something is wrong with you. And so they want executive coaching, therapists, they want all of these people to help them because they think that having a healthy mind just makes them look good on Rodeo Drive. And so in the South, we just haven't had that. But we also don't understand what mental health means. And so you can have mental health challenges and not have mental illness.
Correct.
And that's something I think that we just gotta, help people really start to think about. And so when we're thinking about some of the issues around these type of topics, how have you all addressed these in the community? So I love what you were talking about at the baseball field right there at Gresham, taking that time out to get down on that knee, to reset, as Shanti knows that press reset button. So what are some of the things that you've done, Vaughn? And we'll go right.
Oh, wow. I think it's more just a mentality for me. I've committed myself to this field, right? So not even just, career-wise, but being a therapist is the best thing that ever happened to me, right? As a black man, I literally have had to learn all those things we kind of shy away from. When you kind of get over that hump and break through that barrier, it's like, oh, okay, so I can be a human being and not be restricted to just what society, or not even society, what we say we're supposed to be.
Oh, right? Lord, yes,
So,
say it.
So it's a mentality of committing myself to this and being able to say, hey, listen, I grew up in a home with 2 parents that actually had mental illness, undiagnosed, right? And I'm a therapist now, I've been for 10 years, and neither one of them have really kind of gone in that space to get some help. So what we consider culture or just, just the way it is and things like that, now I'm a therapist and working in this space, I know that we suffer significantly. So it just gives me an opportunity to be able to go back and do things, whether it's on a grassroots level, whether it's in a corporate space. It's just my commitment, making sure these conversations and considerations are in place, especially when it comes to our people.
I love it.
Yes.
Milan, what about you?
So I'm gonna actually talk about hair, because something that I struggled with a lot growing up was natural hair and having my natural hair be a part of my everyday. And I actually talked to one of my little cousins about it, and she's been struggling with her hair being natural and curly, and that's just one of the conversations that I want to have, that it's beautiful. What comes out of your head is what comes out of your head, and it can be that way. You can straighten it, you can do whatever you want with it, but it's beautiful. Your natural hair is beautiful, and that's just one of the things that I feel like I've grown up struggling with, and I feel like I've seen other black children, black women struggling with, and it's just something that I feel like we should be able to have an open conversation about and not shy away from that.
And to your point, it leads to self-esteem issues.
It does. It does.
It makes some kids depressed. It makes them anxious to going into school.
And when you don't have the coping skills to deal with that.
100%.
I used to wake up early and make sure that like my edges were straightened like to perfection before, and I was like in 6th grade, like 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 I just wish that I would have felt like I was beautiful without having to do so much to my hair, and just felt like I can go to school like this, and I feel like that's something that we should.
I just love the lessons that you're already.
You're an old soul, girl.
You're already finding someone to teach. Just like, oh, I've already had this experience, so let me go
Pass
tell
on.
my cousin that
Right.
she's beautiful. And that's what we pay it forward and passing the torch. I mean, that's phenomenal. And we know that the hair is a thing.
Oh gosh.
And I just, I love that. And other than you wanting to pass it forward, do you see other people trying to do that, or what other things are you seeing?
I mean, I actually think that we've improved some with it, because I actually don't have social media. I choose not to, just because.
Smart girl. Smart.
Stay away.
I don't really like it that much. I feel like the algorithm and everything that comes along with it can be damaging. I think that in some ways it can help, but in social media, I feel like I've been seeing more people and more Black women who are natural and doing big chops, and I don't know. I feel like it's really important that we don't feel like we have to hide that part of us, and we don't feel like we take up too much space or anything like that. I just feel like we should, we can be comfortable in just being who we are naturally.
And beautiful, and that's what you are, and just the way you show up, and that's what I love, and I'm just encouraged for the future, just thinking about how you're answering the questions and just how you're showing up. So I see you. So thank you for that.
I have something to say.
Yeah.
Thank you.
With the hair thing, in my household, it's not really taken that seriously about how a Black kid should wear their hair, and it's always to like business professional or like what's acceptable to everybody else. But I don't think people really realize how much your appearance matters to people, and how much self-esteem could really go down if you wanted to grow your hair out, if you wanted dreadlocks, if you wanted braids, but you're not able to do that. You have to stick with one thing which you're not comfortable with. You're not comfortable walking around, and that's a really big issue that I don't think a lot of, I don't want to say Black parents, because not everybody's like that, but in the whole community is looked down on
I
as like.
appreciate you saying
Yeah,
that.
that takes courage.
Can you take that a little bit further? Like, have you had any friends you think that have had that issue too, or have you seen any of your
No,
classmates?
I have
dealing
that
with
issue.
it? Okay.
And I see like my friends or family, and they're able to express themselves. They might have earrings, they might have tattoos, they might have different hairstyle other than just a low cut with waves.
Right.
And it's looked at as like ghetto or thuggish or gangster or something.
Dirty.
If I wanted four braids going down my head.
Oh, yes. Yes. So,
And
Go ahead,
like,
finish.
they think
I'm going to come to you, Vaughn.
like it thinks like a conversation of like trying to imitate like a rapper or an NBA player or something like that, when it's really you just wanting to
Express
yourself.
Express yourself.
And I'm literally the farthest thing away from a gangster.
Yeah.
So that's not what I'm trying to go for. I just like the way it looks on me and stuff like that. And that's a thing I really look forward to doing
Can
in
I
the future.
just say thank you for sharing?
Yeah. We
And,
all. I
and
wanna
first
say
of all,
thank
I love your hair now. It actually reminds me of my nephew. He's a sophomore at Georgetown.
Yeah, that's
football.
big, Jack, too.
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of themes in that. And what it sounds to me that you're asking Black parents to do is to allow you all the opportunity to show up in the way that you think is going to help you to be seen. And so we are so interested in pleasing the outside that we aren't focused on the inside and some of the internal characteristics that make you great.
Can I also add to that?
Yeah,
I think
everybody,
there's
and
also
Vaughn, I'm
a-
gonna get to you too.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
Yeah,
to go.
that's fine.
There's also, I think, like a generational
Yeah.
gap with that, or we didn't grow up with social media. We didn't grow up in the same time, and every generation has its differences.
Right.
It's a huge difference though now. I mean, technology and the way things are, and what's accepted, and whatnot. And I think that is a challenge for parents. And like, I would like to challenge parents to open their minds some, and realize that it is not maybe the same as when we grew up. And there are things that are more acceptable, because I think a lot of times parents just want to protect and don't want you to be viewed as one way, and so it might not always be a stifling kind of thing. I think sometimes it is, but I encourage parents to be open to the new times and understanding that the way we did things, it's different now, drastically.
And I think it's not even just the new times. I think that we're all human beings.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter what the time is. We gotta see this person.
Yeah.
We gotta see
Oh,
this
totally.
person. We gotta see that person.
Yeah.
And I think that when we see each other, that's when we're here.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
that's that whole
Yeah.
concept. Yeah, Vaughn.
It doesn't matter, you can go look back 60 or 70 years, right? Young black people have always used their hair as their way to express themselves, their voice, right? Right now we're in the era, I'm not sure they do it as much anymore, but they dye their hair like green or purple or just different colors. And so as adults, we may be, taken aback a little bit, but if we're being honest, all right, the afro was an expression. Young people expressing themselves through their hair. When I was a kid, it was the high top fade, right, or even the step fade, and all those kinds of things. That was
like the pompadous.
Yes, that was our way of expressing ourselves. Finger waves, right, and French rolls, right, in the '90s. That was expressing yourselves. Jerry curls. That was young people expressing themselves, and so. It is so unfair, for now us to be, a little bit older, in our adult phase, to look at young people and say, you shouldn't do this. You should do it like this, because this is what's going to get you ahead. When we were in, our younger, I used to have cornrows in the early 2000s. I had lots of hang time, right? Because it was just, it was a way of me expressing myself. I didn't know what my voice was supposed to sound like at 20 or 21 years old. But the things I could control, I'm going to have 100% control of that. So the big chop is expressing control over self, right? Allowing your hair to grow and teasing and putting whatever it is you want to, have that look. That's expressing, self-control, right? Controlling my space.
That's what we want.
And here's one thing that I will make sure you keep this feather in your cap, all right? The second that you get a little bit older, when we as adults start to see that gray hair, right? We start to see a hairline going back. We get in our feelings. So adults know what hair expression is.
Sure.
And just make sure you're mindful of not absorbing, a lot of, any type of negative energy about that, right? Because you have to be able to express yourself in the way that you genuinely choose to. So we all have issues with it, and I'm glad you brought that topic up. It's something that we can all relate to in a different kind of a way.
Yeah.
And it's so big. And when we started to think about the point early on of cornrows, I mean, that was used for slaves to figure out, how to get out of and get away from slave masters. And so we don't even recognize some of the traditions and why we've done some of the things that we've done. But we're so busy trying to fit into this perfect, plate. We want to make sure all our food fits on the plate. And some people are like, oh, that can't touch something else. But what we're missing is the most important thing is that heart-to-heart connections. And it's not about making our parents wrong and saying that we're right. It's not who's right, who's wrong, but it is about making sure that we continue to have these conversations. So when we're thinking about, conversations, and do you feel there's been any progress in any of the areas around, hair or anything in the mental health space? You're thinking, are there any you see?
Well, I'll kick it
Yeah.
off. I do think this generation, you all's generation, right, Jack and Milan, that y'all are talking more about way more than my mom, my grandparents. I mean, because, you know, as I mentioned, my dad took his own life. I was only 7 months old. By the time I realized and could process what happened, I was like 5 or 6. And I was very angry about it, and I would see my mom cry. But we never talked about it. We never went to therapy. It's like we just went on with our lives as if nothing ever happened. Yeah. And then I got mad, and I wouldn't even, like, in 3rd, 4th grade, my mom would say something about my dad. I'd be like, don't talk to me about that man, because, you know, he left us. He did it to himself. And I didn't understand what suicide meant. I didn't understand my mom being depressed because her husband had taken his own life. And so I am glad that your generation is talking more about it, whether you know, of course, we point to our notable figures that open up, whether it's Naomi Osaka, Simone Biles, you know, so many young athletes are starting to open up. And even just when I'm in, you know, I lecture a lot to colleges, and I was recently at an HBCU, and on a Friday at 2 o'clock, and y'all know how Fridays are when we're in school. We had 60 students on a Friday show up and stay to the end talking about mental health.
Wow, that's big.
And we had young ladies talking about the pressure of being in school, but having to take care of their mom, you know, because not everybody comes from a beautiful home, a nuclear family, right? She's trying to care for her mom and younger siblings and take care of school and do all of this, and it's a lot of pressure. But she was talking about it, and she wasn't embarrassed to stand up and share in front of her classmates. So I do think that there are strides being made in terms of normalizing it, and definitely the pandemic has put kind of everybody into this state of, okay, we do all have mental health. We may not have a mental illness, or maybe I do have a mental illness. So they're talking about it, but I think we got to take that next step for people to get the help and to process through it with a professional, a licensed professional, and not just to kind of like look at it, but kind of compartmentalize it and kind of set it aside.
Yeah, I think that the conversation is so important. And I think you've heard the quote before, I did then what I knew how to do. When I knew better, I did better. And I think that's where a lot of people are. And I know for our parents did the absolute best that they could with what they had. And as they know better, they have those opportunities. When I'm going in homes doing interventions with young people, more often than not, the parents are always like, come fix my child. You know? And I show up and I, you know, talk to the child and say, why did he talk to you for 2 hours? Like, and why did you find out all this information in 5 minutes? I said, because you were telling him. I just asked. I don't talk to young people with my lens. I talk to young people with their lens. Like, what's going on? What's happening? Tell me. And they tell me more than I would ever want to know. But they see me still, I'm like Auntie Cherry. It's like, yeah, she's Auntie Cherry with the PhD, but she's still Auntie Cherry.
That's right.
And so before they call their mom, they're calling Auntie Cherry. Because
you're not judging them.
I don't judge people.
You're just an ear. Sometimes
I'm not
they
gonna
just
judge
need
you.
to have somebody to listen to them.
I'm not judging. And
that's right.
And I think that's what we have to stop doing. We have to stop judging people. And that's what I think.
Especially our children.
Oh my goodness. It's like, listen.
That's not to say you can't still discipline them, and you obviously want the best for them, but sometimes it goes both ways.
But
you gotta
those
listen
children,
to each other.
it's not. So yes, you might have done X, Y, and Z. I am so happy for you. Yay for you. But if they want to do 1, 2, 3, let's celebrate that. Not every child was born for college. They're not. Who wants to go? Me? I'll go tomorrow. I just saw a video on Stanford. I was like, ooh, sign me up. They're like, no, you're good. But that's me. And so there are some things that young people, they might want to be an artist. They might want to do something else. We've got to think about these paradigms and have these conversations, or call professionals in. Like, you know, Vaughn and I are happy to continue to have dinner with you. And so that we can give the young people voice. And that's what ends up happening. I sit down and say, well, you brought me here to fix the baby, but I'm here to fix you. Let's start with you.
That's
Yeah.
I love that. Anybody else on progress?
You know, to piggyback off of that, when I was working at the medical school, at Moore School of Medicine. Worked there for 6 years. I was one of the directors in the counseling center. And, speaking with so many young folks, a lot of them not from Atlanta, just really came down to Atlanta for med school, number of students from different countries, different cultures, et cetera. And about 75 to 80% of them were becoming doctors because their parents wanted to be doctors.
That's it.
Right? And so the counseling center would just be a line out the door because you had folks that were just there living someone else's dream, right? And we hear that a lot from our
somebody else.
It is because not only just 4 years of medical school, which is deep, intensive studying, then you have to go and do residency. And residency essentially is like working about 75 to 80 hours a week, every single week for 3-4 years. Whether you have a family, kids, doesn't matter, right? Yeah. And so if you're doing all that to make someone else happy,
right? And then they're still not going to be happy. So that's that part.
You have residents that get to the end of residency.
Hashtag that part.
And they say, now that I'm a doctor, I no longer even want to be a doctor, right? And these are people that are taking care of us. Right. So, it's, again, message to young folks, right? Live your life. Live your life.
Live your best life.
Everybody is not going to be happy with every single thing that you do. It's okay. So long as you're not out here being destructive to yourself or other people, it's okay.
It's funny, if I can interject.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Live your life. My mom, God rest her dead, and I miss her so much every day. Mm-hmm. When I came out of Syracuse and said, I'm going to work in the music business, they were like, what's that?
Really?
The what? The music what? And so, but I was so passionate about it, and thank God, I had my sister and I had my village to really convince Mom, because she didn't even want me to go to Syracuse, much less work in the music business. And so,
not drive on the expressway.
All of the above. But, to your point, I was so passionate about it, and I wasn't gonna let anybody stop me. Yeah. Jack, when I tell you, I was like, I'm working in the music business. I know y'all might want me to be a lawyer or something you could understand, an accountant. Like my sister was, the accountant and all that, but I'm like, that's not for me. You know me, I'm creative. I think I have ADHD and haven't been diagnosed, but I'm a little bit all over the place. I'm a free spirit, I'm creative. I learned how to be an executive and how to, do certain things and follow standards and protocol, but that's not really who I am. Yeah.
Right.
And I had to be me. And I might come up in 2022 with some cornrows on. Because shoestring will come out.
I was about to say.
And can still handle business and be CEO. I have had cornrows, thank you very much. And
it lasts
braids, like Katie got braids today, I had braids.
It lasts a very short amount of time. So that's another conversation.
I think I might have
but you know what I'm saying. I mean, I'm like,
it was hard.
And they used to call me the little gangster chick because I wore cornrows all the time. And I was like, you know what, whatever. I like hip hop. This is who I am.
They look really pretty though.
And I did what I had to do. But the important thing, Jack, is I did what I needed to do to express myself, but I handled my business.
There you go.
So Mama couldn't come back to me and say, this, that, and the third, because I was successful in what I was passionate about and what I wanted to do, and I expressed myself, but I still handle my business. Right. And so if we can support our children's mental health and wellness and allow them to express themselves, because even success looks different now.
Sure.
Because kids can start a clothing line or do all this other stuff on social media and become entrepreneurs. And so maybe they won't, to your point, go to college and take the traditional track, or maybe they go to college and still become an entrepreneur or go the traditional route and have a side hustle. It's just so many things because of technology and where the world is now that I think the one thing, I was on a panel I just spoke at, I'm really proud of this humble moment, but I spoke at the Clinton Foundation this weekend, and Dr. Chelsea Clinton was one of the panelists, and Michael Tyler, who you all might know from the pandemic, he wrote a lot of children's books, and one that was really popular was This Skin We're In. And so anyway, they were talking about one thing Michael Tyler said that his hope for the future was acceptance. And they kind of asked us to go around, and he was like, I want us not to tolerate one another. Right? We don't have to tolerate Milan. We don't have to tolerate Jack. I want to accept Milan. I want to accept Jack.
Right.
And we can all coexist, but let's learn to accept one another, to Dr. Collier's point, right? Because when we don't accept each other and we just tolerate each other, we're going down a dangerous road.
Yeah.
And that is why a lot of our kids and parents fall into depression, fall into anxiety, because they're like, I feel like I'm being smothered and nobody's hearing me.
Right.
And so we don't want you to drown. You know, we want to be there with you. We want to throw you that life vest, but let's swim down the river together. Let's figure this thing out. Let's accept one another. We ain't always got to agree.
And see,
Right.
I agree
That's
with you,
big.
and I think that's huge. And coming from the research, I think that you have to tolerate before you can accept. And I think that's where our problem is. Because we always want to hit the home run, but we're not even at first base yet. We're not, first base. Are we able to bat yet? Wait, hold on. Did the ball come my way? So there's steps, and those steps sometimes actually start with tolerating, because you got to have some toleration before you get to acceptance.
I hear you.
And we even have to learn, and I agree wholeheartedly. I think acceptance is what we want.
Yeah, that's the ultimate goal.
That's what we want.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I want.
We want that. Yourself, it was all prepared. I would say by me, but that wouldn't be true. And that's sometimes what we get. We get people taking credit for some of the amazing things that we've done in our lives.
So we were talking about, I ultimately want acceptance, right?
Yeah.
You were telling us how we need to get to that step. To acceptance.
Right. And to get to it, it's a process. And the thing about life is things don't happen overnight.
Very true.
And so when people are talking about mental health, we have to recognize that there are literally 24 hours in the day, and it's a long day in our minds, and that everything takes time. Every part of it takes time. So if you had something happen to you in your life, car accident, let's talk about a car accident. Your whole body might be bruised, right? I'm not going to just have your body bruised. I'm going to have you with broken bones, because that's the best one. You got in a cast, you have all those things. People see that. So we give you permission to heal.
Right.
Because we saw that. Right? But what we don't see is the stuff that's inside. Right? And so if something happened to you, it's going to take some time. And so we know from the neural research that physical pain and social pain reside in the same place in the body, and social pain lasts longer. Because once your body is healed, your body has healed for the most part, right? But that social pain, we still have triggers. People keep touching us and feel like this keep taking us back. And so to get to acceptance, it takes us some parts in time.
Yeah.
To tolerate that until we can get to, that's a great point.
Right, because I gotta at least want to be around you. And we also know from neuroscience, not that you want to know all about neuroscience, but that's my stuff. Because neuroscience has taught me a lot about why African Americans and white Americans and other people don't always agree. It's because sometimes literally our brains don't even light up. So when someone is talking about something that's not relevant to you, your brain is like, it's not there. I mean, there is nothing, there's no light there.
Yeah.
And so we have to get to the point where we at least tolerate, so
I
that
get it.
light is
That's
going to
right.
come on for us.
Okay.
So and ultimately get us to where we want
Yeah,
to be.
we want to
at.
first just turn on that light.
Right.
And that light is, kind of connection. So when we're thinking about today or any time, what learning or new understandings do you have about mental health as it relates to, children, suicide, or anything new?
I think being a licensed practitioner for almost 10 years now, really, really proud of that, because it takes a long time.
Yeah.
It actually takes a lot to become a licensed therapist, more than it should. But what I've learned is that always be flexible and be willing to learn. Because I may go into, when I was younger, I would go into a session feeling that I'm the expert, so that my voice and my opinion needs to be valued, right? At the sage on the stage, right? As opposed to, when you go through a process and when you're in a space for a certain amount of time, you start to recognize, wait a minute, I'm learning from my clients too, all right? Which allows me to be a lot more vulnerable in sessions, which helps them out. And so now I understand a symbiotic relationship that happens in therapy, which led me to the realization, wait a minute, this is the best thing that ever could have happened to me. Best career that I could have chosen for myself. So what I've learned is that two things. Number one, be flexible to learn from other people, because we all have some substance that you can glean from. And two, the one thing I tell my patients all the time is exactly what you said. Time, and this is very important. If we truly learn the value of time, we will understand that it is the one thing that we cannot get back. It's the one thing that cannot be recreated. You can go out, you can lose all the money in the world, you can go out here and make some more money. You cannot make up time for yourself.
Right.
And the reason why it is extremely valuable is that it is the number one ingredient that you have to have in any process that's gonna make it successful. If you cut yourself, you need time for it to heal.
Time.
He's getting ready to graduate in 3 weeks, but that's still time, right? He's still not a high school graduate until that time has completed itself. If you wanna grow your hair, time has to be the key ingredient. In order for you to be able to value time, you gotta be patient. With yourself, with one another. So, you know, these are things that I'm learning from interacting with human beings. And that's why I say you gotta be human, right? Because we're all like alumni of the collective human experience, right? And so we have to, you know, allow ourselves to receive, right? To listen to receive, not to respond, and be flexible to learn.
And how do we teach our kids to understand that value of time when everything is quick bites and fast moving and quick bites from a children's mental health perspective?
I'm glad you said that, because the digital age is really the antithesis of who we are as people, right? You know, so getting everything in quick sound bites. We are responding to headlines and not even reading the article, and then not even understanding the article is based on a research study. So our understanding of the world is really not even with a lot of substance.
Scrolling. A lot of people be like, "Oh, I didn't read what was in the copy." I'm like, "You just looked at the picture."
You scroll until you get to something that you want to see, which is diluting our understanding. So I think, you know, modeling, behavior modeling, and explaining. So now as parents, you have to explain things more. You have to be more patient. I even say that to myself, right? Be more patient, create time for children to actually speak their minds and place value on it. Right? Don't just do it just to, you know, you're trying to be cheesy. Like, really be intentional. Right? Be intentional about
Have I
wanting.
heard that word before tonight?
I think so. Maybe about 4 or 5 times. I'm sorry, but being intentional to ensure that your child is at least building their voice. You know, it's not necessarily about winning the argument or anything like that, but you just want to make sure they have the skills to speak their minds when they're not around you. So I think the best way, behavior modeling and just being intentional with your children.
And I like that too, because when I was little, when I would go to the doctor, and I'm gonna deviate for 1 second and talk about one time, Shanti and I took her nephew to a restaurant. And it was a brilliant thing because the waiter asked for his order, but he asked Shanti. He was like, "I'm over here."
I love it.
He said, "I want chicken fingers and a spite." But he was little. And so many times we overlook little people.
Yeah.
And we don't let them talk. And the parents are always talking for them. My mother never did that. And so that's the value of also growing up in Southwest Atlanta. Because Dr. Bland was my doctor. So he would diagnose me, tell me what the problem was. He would bring the book in there, and he would leave because he knew who I was. And my mother set me up to be a white child. And so if he was trying to tell me to do something, I get to say why. And he was ready for it. And he would say, "Okay, so read on this page, and then I'm going to come back and we'll discuss it." So my whole life, I thought that I had permission to ask doctors. So the first time a doctor told me that I was lactose intolerant, and the doctor was a white female, I said, "Where you get that from? Because you heard that all black people are lactose intolerant. That was the fastest thing for you to tell me, right?" And my mother was like, and the doctor was looking at her, and she was like, "She's there, talk to her." And she said, "Well, your symptoms." I said, "But I didn't give you any symptoms. I just told you my stomach was hurting. You assumed that I had lactose intolerance." And so I said, "But I have eaten cereal every day for this long. So what evidence do you have that this is true?" And my mom is sitting there, and the doctors continue looking at my mom like, "Are you gonna jump in and save me?" My mom is like, "No, you gotta tend to her. This is what we do. I mean, my daddy, everybody has given her permission just to ask questions. And I think we have to empower our generation to just ask those questions. If a therapist says something, that doesn't make it fact. Sometimes those are opinions shaped in fact, but we got to be willing to ask questions of any person, and just do it respectfully.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think another thing that I've learned is that we have to start normalizing asking children how they feel, what are their thoughts at a very early age. We can't wait until they become teenagers to start incorporating that, because they won't know. They won't know how they feel. And, you know, giving them the labels of how, you know, the words to use and to say, you know, from kindergarten. I was having a conversation with some friends the other day, and they said, you know, why can't it, if we get 2 dental visits per year, why can't we get 2 mental health visits per year?
That's right.
You know, baked into our, you know, medical approach or whatever, right? And so think about, like, if your teachers start asking, you know, well, how do you feel today, Shanti? You know, or just whatever, just beginning to normalize it.
As opposed to, what's wrong with you?
Right. You know, at that level.
Right.
And you're having conversations and using the vocabulary
Right.
that you're not just looking for something wrong.
That's right.
Because they are taught that, right? They're looking for something wrong, but not looking for something right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think
point.
that's what I've learned over, you know, by being a mom. I've learned that you just can't wait until a child is older, you know, and start having those conversations. And so that's something that that I'm going to start, you know, talking to some of our friends who are teachers about having those conversations at a much younger age, and just, you know, asking kids how are they feeling. And I remember when I was in, I don't know what grade, it was some elementary school, and they asked us to draw a picture of ourselves. And the teacher called my mom and commented on the fact that I drew my lips in brown. And she said, you know, I just want to commend you because all the other black girls drew their lips in pink. And she said, you know, everything about her was reflective of who she was. And, you know, her hair was short and probably nappy. I don't know what word she used. And, you know, my mom was like, and you're calling because, you know, I mean, my mom wasn't trying to, you know, be insulting or anything, but she really had to break it down. And, you know, the teacher just really affirmed her.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I when I looked at the picture, you know, I was like, well, this is the way I look.
Right, correct.
You know, but when I looked at the other pictures, I really saw that that's the way that they want it to look, you know, because you want to look like all the other girls. And so that's just always, but my dolls look like me, you know, so I don't know what my parents did, because they certainly didn't sell dolls that looked like me in Millersville, Georgia, but it was important to them to go find dolls that had brown skin and afros, you know, so we had a little village of dolls. We had Japanese dolls. We had all kinds of dolls. And so, once again, it was intentional. And so, just as that was intentional, you know, normalizing mental health at a younger age, I think is important too.
I agree. What do our young folks think? Anything? Any thoughts on around
Can you
this?
repeat the question?
Yeah, so
It's really about the learning.
what appreciation do you have or new understanding about addressing suicide prevention or children's mental health in general, black children's mental health? Or things that you've seen amongst your peers?
Gosh, I'm gonna start with things that I want to change and do differently. Wow, I mean, I had a friend who committed suicide a couple years ago now, and he was a black young male. I think he was 16 at the time. And growing up, now that I am an adult, I know I'm a young adult, but now that I am older, I wish that I had given him a space to talk to me, and given him a space to be more comfortable, and I'm hoping that, obviously it wasn't a good experience, but with the experience and what I've learned from that situation, I can give give people a more comfortable space to just be vulnerable and be vulnerable myself and say, yeah, hey, I struggle with these things. I'm not these things, but, you know, we can have this conversation. You can talk to me about this, and you don't have to struggle alone, because it's way more common than I feel like we like to admit or that we talk about. Just thinking about suicide, thinking about hurting yourself, having depression, having mental illness. I don't know. It's more common than a lot of us like to think it is.
Yeah.
So I just think that I'd like to be more vulnerable, be able to let people sit with me and have a space to talk. And that's something that I wish that I would have done more than, but I know I can.
Yeah, and so
I
what I would
can-
love for, so two things. One, we are still human, right? And so I want you to honor that humanity in you. And so I don't want to tell you to believe in God or whatever that is, but we all still have finite amounts of time. And so when I think about, to me, silence the shame, it is really about supporting and loving, but we can't put that guilt on us when other things do happen to other people. Because if we had the opportunity to be God, I'm sure we'd change a whole lot of stuff, right? And as painful as it is, I love the intention. So that's the first part. The first part is, that piece. The second piece is the intention. Is the next time I get opportunities, I will be present. I'll make sure that I see other people. So hold on to that. But
Instead of regret.
No regret. You can't have regrets over what's happened to other people and other situations. It's hard to
Which
say
is what
that.
nearly took me out when my best friend died by
Right.
suicide.
Right. And I talked a lot. It's like
Yeah.
you cannot control that. So we have a circle of things that we really can influence, and we have a whole lot of stuff we cannot change. And so that understanding of the parts you can control and the parts you can't will free you to do the work and to be present for those who need you. Because we need you. You understand? And so we can't save everybody because there is something or someone that has a bigger title that we tend to call God. And so we don't wear God's clothes every day. We are his or her representation on this earth. And so there's a different dichotomy there. So the part I love is that you're creating space for all of us just having this conversation. And that's what you want to hold on to, because no person dies without giving you what they need. So I don't ever question why my mom and father died, because they came here to bring me here. And then they had to go. They would never have left me without planting every last seed in me, because God wouldn't let them go. They gave me everything. And so every day, whatever your friend gave you, it's your job to let that blossom going forward. So you gotta see it that way.
That's beautiful.
Yes. So, oh my God, what's so powerful? Do we have any closing words from anybody, or if you just want to go around the table and share how maybe, what the next steps you'd like to see from this conversation, or what you took from it, good or bad? This is Sunday dinner, so we'll start with.
Well, I just wanted to say, like, from the parent point of view, and we were talking about, children talk and encourage them to talk and say, is to encourage parents to really listen and believe them when they say how they feel. Because I know it at first. I didn't know. I didn't think.
Right.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important.
Yeah.
You have to get out of your own way.
That's right. I agree.
I just hope, like I've been saying like this whole time, I just hope that we can continue having these types of conversations. I think this was very helpful. I hope it was very helpful for everyone else. Just being able to sit down with other Black people and have a conversation about what's been going on in our heads, how we feel about everything. I hope that we can continue to do that, and anyone who watches this can take some steps towards that.
Maybe we can get on the OWN channel. Silence Your Stream Sunday dinner.
Right, or something. That would be great.
Okay.
OWN. Okay.
Make
Something.
it happen.
Sorry. Jack.
I think, like in general, one thing that I've always thought about for myself, like when I get older, is that I was gonna parent way differently than all of my parents did, because I have more than two. And I think that parents should. I know a couple of different situations where Black fathers they look at their sons or their daughters as like, I'm gonna teach them everything they need to know. Like, you don't really need to be friends with your kids. You just need to show them what they need to do, what they need to say, all that type of stuff. But I think that really affects like the child. Like I think every parent should be best friends with their kids, because when you're best friends with your kids and they feel comfortable to tell you whatever they want to tell you without any feedback, without any judgment. Like, I don't know, you can just wake up 3 o'clock in the morning, go up in there and say anything to them. It's no
Weird kind of
it's
Okay,
not.
I'm sorry. We're both about to start
Yeah.
crying. 'Cause
Right.
Yeah.
that was the dynamic with Cherry's mom, who was
It's
like
no,
a second
it's no
mom
like
to me.
anxiety to go talk to them, or you sitting there waiting at the door, like listening for who's outside your room or who's walking downstairs.
Yeah.
None of that stuff. You just feel safe.
Yeah.
And I always said that I was going to be like that way with my kids, and I plan to do that, because I think that really affects mental health,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
I think that really affects like how kids are, like in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just say
That's
thank
big.
you for coming to my house today, both of you. Like,
Yeah.
y'all can come
Yeah.
see Auntie Shanti anytime. We can watch the Celtics. We can braid hair. We can go to Target and buy Shea Moisture for our twist. Whatever. I love y'all so much.
Yeah.
So encouraging.
And it is encouraging, and it's possible, right? And so I'm encouraged whenever you choose to move into that space, because that is what my mom did for me. And so I'm completely moved, because she always gave me that freedom. And many of my friends always text me like, you know what, I'm having a hard day, and I'm like, okay. Because I can't get in your mom's bed right now, right?
Wow.
And so my mom never cared. Everybody could always come to her. And,
Ooh.
Yeah.
and so she gave me the permission to be there for everybody. And so your dream for the world, I think, is what we need to help people understand. Parenting isn't just having a child and putting out all of these rules. Parenting is loving and enabling them to know that no matter what happens, it's a safe space. And there was nothing that there was never a topic on the planet that was off nothing with my mom. And I think that is a beautiful thing that you want. And you can still create that space, somewhere. It might not. It doesn't have to be with your father. You can create that whatever we want in the world is still available. It's always available.
And I think I don't think that you should start having a friendship type of relationship with your kids later on. I think that should start
When you're
like
born.
toddler age. Like once you can like comprehend what's going on around you, I think that's when you need to start building a relationship with not just your parents, but like your aunts, uncles, family, whoever loves you. Because in a lot of cases with suicide, I know a whole bunch of people, which is not good that I know a whole bunch of people, the only reason that they have not committed suicide is because they know how much it would affect their family.
Yeah.
And they know that their parents would probably
Yeah.
go into depression and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so that's really not good.
Yeah.
But there's nothing else you can really do about it. But you just move forward.
Yeah.
So y'all all know I'm a crier.
And I'm not, so this is days like.
But we laugh and cry at Sunday dinner. But so I just gotta say, so my mom really closed up when my dad took his own life. And what I loved about Cherry's relationship is that she and her mom were friends. My mom loved us to death, provided for us. But I couldn't talk to my mom about most stuff. So I buried my feelings. I was depressed a lot growing up. But I was also high functioning, I was engaged and I was active, but I hid a lot of that as a kid. And I think that's why I considered taking my own life as an adult. But I would go to Cherry's house in the 6th grade and I just thought, is this normal? I don't understand this dynamic of a family relationship between mother and child. And then I had this amazing sister.
Take your time.
Who's now gone. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry.
I still got a lot of stuff to unpack. Jack and Milan. That's why this work is important, but it's so important that families have these relationships with their kids. And I'm grateful for the village and the Black families because it really is about villages. And had it not been for my village, I don't know that I would be the person that I am today. And that my sister stepped in, like you, raising, Jack, and who's not, your biological child, but she was like a mother to me. And, we need so much in the Black community. We really do have to depend on, siblings that might be that role model, or a coach, or a teacher, or, just whomever. We have to bring together the village to pour into one another. But we also do need those relationships because it's hard when you just want to come home every day as a kid and go to your room.
Yeah.
Right.
And we never said it. Let me tell you why Sunday dinner, I came up with this idea, because we never sat at the table together. It wasn't a thing. Yeah. Mom did the best she could. And I had to go study, and I would go sit on the floor and watch TV, watch the Flintstones, and eat dinner. This wasn't a thing until I got older. And my cousins and my sister started doing dinners and holidays and creating traditions. And in our culture, we need this love and support.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's so important to our mental health.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm such a wreck right now.
Stop.
But it's okay because I think that it's important. And the reality is that social connections matter. And what I was saying, to Jack is that it doesn't have to be your biological family. It doesn't have to be. We get our love where we are. And so Mel went to Spelman, that's my sister. Since 9, man, please. That is, we're family. And these are my, this is my niece, this is my nephew. Wherever we are, Vaughn is, that's my brother. We have to recognize, no matter what, that social human beings need connections. Yep. And so Sunday dinner, we had it at our house every Sunday. We had, matter of fact, my family, we ate together every day. It was just, that's what I thought all people were doing. We always ate together. And for me, what I do every day is I just try to make sure that someone else eats. I'm going to feed you, it might not be food, but I'm going to give you something. There's something on the menu today. It's how are you? I send out random texts to just make sure people know that I love you. But we all have a part to play, no matter how we grew up, and making sure that we all sustain this community, because we're a village. So, I will tell you, my sister and her brother dated, so we used to date. It's when are we going on a date? So Shanti and I would be in the middle, and they would be on the outside. It was just too cute, because we were coming to see each other. That's the thing. And so from that time on, we have been been together. Once she couldn't get to the hospital for one of her uncles, and I got there, and he's looking at me, about to take his last breath, like, you know, I've known you all your life, but you know, you and Shanti might be related. And I'm like, and we are, because you can have family and you can have relatives, and that's just a word. A relative might have the DNA, but family is what you make it. And that's, you gotta find your family and meet them where they are. And so that's what this is about. And I love how you showed up today. And I'm gonna say this in front of everybody because it's important. You don't have to talk when you don't want to. And we have to get out of this child adults. You are a human, and you came to this earth with the same purpose that we all had. And you chose to come in, and everything you said was valuable. You broke us both down in a beautiful way by what you said. And how you do what you do matters. You came in knowing your light, and you let that light shine, and it mattered. And the adults, we had to yield because we know that you had something very important to say. You told us you had some stuff going on. You didn't hide it. You went through it and you put it out there. And you look beautiful, and you're still trying to figure out, how can I, with what I'm dealing with, help somebody else? So I admire you. I love you, like my own niece and nephew. And I want to just thank everyone who's at the table. Thank you, Mel, for just how you show up. Thank you, Vaughn, for everything, the symbiotic, the intentional. Shanti, thank you for that word you introduced today, that discernment and the beauty and your passion and your heart. I think I'm more of a crier now because I have embraced being the best friend. And I think what's even great is that Shanti has 11 best friends. I have 11 best friends. We don't get into that. It's like we all good. We have to know that there's enough to go around. So thank you for opening up your home. And thank you for all of the people, Jewel, and everyone who made this magnificent meal. I know that had to be hard on their hands. And hopefully this has been soulful. Thank you to you for always being our friend. And no matter where we were, and this is how my mind is. I saw you at the leadership conference. It was where Jane Smith had it, and I saw you in New Orleans. And we were each time I was with her, and we took selfies each time. And so every time you show up, you're family. So these conversations are so that we can start to normalize mental health and hope that everyone gets it so that they won't have to live in mental illness, because there is another path. And all of us play a part in this. So thank you guys for honoring me. With being able to share my Sunday with you. I wouldn't have been anywhere else. So thank you, and I love you, Shanti. And I love everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. I know you didn't have any. Did you have anything else to say real quick? You good?
I can always say something. I just wanted to say that, first I just want to thank Jack. I know it can be hard to say things, with the parents sitting next to you. So I honor everything that you've said, and I honor your journey. And I think that you'll see that life changes, and I think that we all have the opportunity to create the family. My mother died when I was 20, and I went on a lifelong search for another mother. And I never, unfortunately, got that opportunity to have another mother. And so thank you for honoring me to allow me to be, your madre. You don't know how much that has meant to me. And I hope that our relationship will continue to grow. And I hope that our friendship, more importantly, will continue to grow and change as you grow and change. And I hope that you will understand that, that symbiotic relationship between parent, friend, and that continuous change between parent and friend. And I think that as we all grow and change, we understand the relationships that we play in people's lives. And so I thank the two of you for allowing me to be your sister, through my husband, because I really do honor you as my sisters. And I don't use that word lightly. A lot of people throw around that word, and I don't at all. But I value your friendship, I value your sistership, and I thank you for asking me to be here tonight, because Jack does not open up very easily. And so I thank you for honoring whatever touched you to invite him tonight, because I know he needs this. And I'm just happy to be here. And in any way that I can help advance the cause of mental health in adults, children, teens, adolescents, pre-Ks, babies, whoever, I will show up for it, because that's part of my ministry.
Thank you.
And I need to, I want to show people that no matter how high functioning you are, I am the picture of a family that has been deeply impacted by mental illness, and on the other side, by the positive impact of mental health, by intentional mental health.
Yeah.